You got trimethylaminuria, also known as fish odor syndrome. How would you describe it?
It's a metabolic condition that causes a different body odor.
Okay.
The TMA comes out through the skin and out in bodily secretions, so like in sweat and saliva. So it can give sufferers bad breath as well. It's not only a fishy odour that patients get. That was one of the sort of original symptoms, but there's like fecal body odour that comes with it, and some of the other odours that have been described, like burnt tyres and garbage. So it's I think it's quite a personal. It's quite personal to the person smelling the TMA as to how it smells, if that makes sense.
When did you notice for the first time?
Really started to notice it as a child, probably when I was about 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
We started to notice that I was having quite strong smelling urine. Whether that was to do with the TMAU or to do with the fact that I've got a kidney problem, we weren't quite sure at the time. They thought it was because of the kidney problem. But as I've got older and the more I've sort of made connections, it got a lot worse when I hit puberty, which is quite common with TMAU sufferers. And the change in hormones can have quite a big impact on how badly somebody smells. It just persisted over the years of keep getting complaints that I couldn't quite figure out why I was getting the complaints about body odour.
Well, that was actually one of the questions. Was it difficult for you when you were a child?
As a younger child, no, not so much, because young kids tend to be fairly accepting of a lot of things. As I got older, I was bullied in high school, partly to do with the fact that I wasn't particularly athletic. I was more sort of head buried in a book kind of a girl rather than being particularly social. But there was also people, some kids and stuff like, oh, it's smelly Kelly. As much as I found it upsetting, it kind of just blended into the background of the general bullying that I was undergoing. It wasn't specifically about that. That sounds really sad, but I don't mean it like that. It was just, to me, it was kind of a matter of fact part of my teenage years was not being popular.
How did you get the diagnosis and when?
It actually took me until I was about 35, 36, partly because I didn't realise it was a thing, sort of suffered on with it and been told repeatedly that there's been a complaint about your body odour, so I'd wash a little bit more or I'd change my laundry regimen, tried all sorts of different things and nothing was working until I'd heard of fish odour syndrome or trimethylaminuria before, but hadn't made the connection with myself because I'd thought it was something that happened to people and it was a constant smell. Whereas with me, it drops in and out. I can go for, well, previously I could go for sort of several weeks and not get any complaints. And then all of a sudden it seemed to suddenly ramp up and it would be really bad for a while.
Do you feel it yourself or do you notice it when somebody else complains about it?
I don't actually smell it myself because I've had no sense of smell since birth. They don't know why. In fact, they've never really looked into it. So,
does it have to do with the condition?
No, it's
okay.
Well, as far as we know, it's something completely separate. But a lot of sufferers don't smell themselves. Whether it's because you get used to. One thing I've noticed talking to a lot of sufferers over the last few years is that even their family members don't smell them, and it leads to a lot of sort of mistrust of people because you ask them a point blank question, do I smell? And they're like, no, no, no. And then you go out and people are reacting to you and it's like not being truthful to spare my feelings or, what is it? And I've genuinely found that a lot, particularly my family, I know they don't smell me unless it's really incredibly bad. Because a lot of times I'd go to them and say, I've had a complaint at work today. Can you smell me and tell me where it's coming from? And I might be able to track it down. And they wouldn't be able to smell anything.
Is it a way to stop it or control it? I mean, is there something like a pill you can take or something like that?
It's a pretty complicated set of things that you need to do. Okay. It's all to do with reducing the amount of TMA that your body is producing or that you're putting into your body, but also maximizing your body's ability to metabolize the TMA.
Have you ever met somebody else with this condition?
I actually met up with one of the ladies that I'd met online years ago now. We had a big meet-up of patients at the hospital where I'm being treated. Oh. And because I work as part of that trust, they also asked me to do just a bit of a presentation, because I'd done a video previously. They asked me to do a presentation of my experiences and what I'd felt had worked for me as a patient, which was really nice to be able to give something back to the community that supported me so much through.
So has it affected you in other areas of your life? For example, you were talking about your job.
It's impacted how I relate to people. It's made me fairly a little bit mistrusting, really, because I know that people, they don't want to turn around to your face and tell you, oh, you smell. But it tends to then make people talk discreetly behind your back. Some people might not necessarily be doing that in a bad way, it's in a concerned way. But I've tried to work sort of around that now by letting people know I've got the condition. Just trying to find ways to work around it and work with people if it's bothering them.
Was it difficult for you in the, let's call it, love area? For example, was it difficult to date people having this condition?
To be honest, I never really found a problem in that department. I suppose I married quite early. I was 23 when I got married, and I'd met my husband probably about 18 months before that. It's difficult to say whether I had a problem or not, because I only had a couple of boyfriends before him.
Okay.
But he doesn't find it a major issue. He has sort of said in the past that he did notice it when we first sort of got together, but it wasn't so much of a problem that it was something that put him off. He's 9 years older than me, so I think he was a little bit more of a mature mindset when we got together than...
So we talked about the condition and how and the impact that it has in your life. Is there anything else you would like to say about your life, about the condition in general?
I think my biggest sort of purpose of doing these videos is to raise awareness around it, because there's so much ignorance but also cultural taboo when it comes to body odour. People automatically seem to assume that if you've got a body odour, you choose to have a body odour, that it's not. It's very much seen as something to be sneered at and ridiculed, rather than sort of taking that next thought of, why is somebody smelling? What's the issue there? And there are so many. It's not just TMAU that causes a body odour. It boggles my mind how many different causes there are for body odour. And I think my major sort of thing that I'd like people to take away from watching these videos is just take a second thought if you come across somebody with a body odour condition. It might not even be that they've got a health condition. It could be that they're struggling in their home life, and hygiene can sometimes be one of the first things to go. With metabolic conditions like mine, hygiene isn't even an issue. Weight isn't an issue, which have been several things that have been brought up. It is literally something that's coming out not off my skin but through my skin. Even if I went and had a shower, that's not going to change anything because of how it's manifesting.
Thank you, Kelly, for meeting me today. It was such a pleasure to have you here and to learn more about the condition. So thank you very much. A todos los que nos están mirando, pueden suscribirse al canal, pueden activar la campanita, pueden seguirme en Instagram, en Twitter, en TikTok, donde nos estén mirando. Pueden donarme un café si así lo desean. O pueden suscribirse a Patreon y me ayudan un montonazo a que el formato se pueda seguir realizando de manera independiente. Thank you, Kelly, very much for being here.
No, thank you for talking to me.
Bye.
Bye.